Okay, everyone, I'm trying this. We'll see how it goes. I've not done a virtual meeting like this for us, but just to get us all on the same page before we start this school year, I wanted to pull together some items that are left over from April when we didn't get to meet and everything went haywire, and to see where we can pick up and go from here into the fall semester. So the first thing I just wanted to say is welcome, and I hope you're all back and happy and healthy and doing okay with all this craziness. And if you're not, please reach out to somebody and let us know, because the last thing I want are people to feel alienated and fearful of everything and worried. So just take care of each other, and if you're feeling stressed about everything, let someone know and do a mental health check-in if you would. Just make sure you're all doing okay. Old business minutes. First thing, we don't have any minutes from the last meeting because we didn't have a meeting in April. The treasurer's report, Kate will be taking over as treasurer. And just so you know, there's been, of course, no change since the last purchases that we had in May. The ending balance was $8,020.79. Now, we already have had the embroidery cost of the robe. We will have the cost of the speaker system, of sharing that with Student Life for the Ivy ceremony. And if there was any cost of printing the production or the programs for the ceremony, we'll have that cost. But I think since we did those in-house, I think that's going to be minimal, if anything. So we've got that, and we also just ordered the t-shirts and polo shirts, and that's down on my little list here. But just jumping ahead, it was $1,700 or so and some change. We bought 48 t-shirts and 48 polos, and everybody should have the size that they asked for. And then I added extra to accommodate for new people that would be coming this next month, and making sure that they have a t-shirt and polo when they get on board with SAC, and then just having extra because might as well get the reduced rate at 48 quantity instead of paying for 12 or 24 or whatever. Bylaws, I know Abigail, we left off, she had headed up a committee, and I can't remember what those committee recommendations were, so we probably need to get on top of that, make our edits that we need to make to clean them up a little bit, and then maybe consider moving forward with some things as cleaning them up again this year and taking the next step. And I'll get to that in a second. But we definitely need to make a motion or send those out, and a motion to accept the edits, and then an electronic vote. And then we can file those with Student Life and get those updated as well. Lead events, I have an attachment on lead that was sent out to the staff about how they're going to change the lead program. A lot of the notes that I have written down and my personal notes on it: guest speakers via Zoom, events that can be held outside, that'll get into our fall stuff, our kickoff event where the number of students can be managed with stations, or an event location where you can, I guess, space out. Virtual service projects, I have an idea with that, with a virtual 5K. And alumni panels and trainings, we've talked about that on different occasions, but actually having to make those all Zoom type panels or Skype type panels, or whichever method works the best for us. But we can definitely do some alumni things, and we might be able to do more alumni things doing it virtually versus having the expense of people coming into campus and having to put them up in a hotel room, which we cannot put anybody in the alumni house, just in case anybody wants to know. That is off limits because we might have somebody who needs to be quarantined, and that's just another space that we can put people and keep people safe from each other while they recuperate. So nobody will be staying in the alumni house in the near future. So anyway, that all keeps our costs down if we do things virtually, and we might be able to have more alumni engagement that way if we can find a way to create kind of an online panel. So we'll get into some lead discussion further down in the agenda. We just talked about t-shirts and polos. Those have been ordered. The vote was sent out. It was a unanimous vote, of course, and that money, that $1,700, will come out of your $8,000 balance that you have right now. it'll be a little less than 8,000 because of the embroidery and everything else for our Ivy ceremony. New business, quickly going through that. We need to start thinking about recruitment and interviews and expectations of our new SAC members. So we have right now, of course, the 8 vacancies in the freshman class. I'm looking at the roster. We have 3 vacancies in the sophomore class, 2 vacancies in the junior class, and 1 in the senior class. We had a couple of people that transferred and 1 that graduated early. So in total, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus 8, 14 vacancies right now. Of course, the 8 are, automatic with freshman class. So I don't know how we're doing the activity fair this year. And if anybody has any ideas or has any information about that, I would love to know, because I don't know how we're going to do this. Other than we can do flyers, we can do some kind of social media push, something that gets people excited and energized about being a part of SAC. The timeline, I put in some basic ideas of getting applications due by August 31st. If we need to, we can extend it into the first part of September. We can do virtual interviews or in our UA boardroom and distance in that room. We might even do them outside if that works better. And we might be able to do that if we have a deadline of August 31st, start planning everybody out to have interviews during the week of September 7th, and then make our decisions and get the letters out by September 14th. And that way we'd have our full board done by hopefully the middle of September and get that done quickly and efficiently. So it's just, to me, the big question is how do we recruit and get people engaged with SAC and understand what we're doing. So one of the things I thought we might want to do, and I've done this for my last job when I worked with a state association, the expectations of our trustees, I created an expectations of SAC members, and it's attached a PDF for you. Has the logo of SAC at the top. Mine's got some edits on it here, but it gives you the purpose of what SAC is about, the duties and roles of what SAC does, the responsibilities of our members, and what they kind of get out of being in SAC. So it gives you kind of a basic outline of what we're doing. I think this will be really helpful for Abigail and the bylaws committee, that we might be able to take and incorporate some of this either verbatim into the bylaws and clean those up and make that more concise and more, I guess maybe not concise, but more specific about what we do and what we're expecting our members to do and what you get from being part of it. But also there's a piece at the bottom where you sign and kind of commit the fact that I know what I'm getting myself into and I agreed that I'm going to be there, so that if we have any issues with people not upholding their end of the bargain, I mean, we're going to be dropping, $20 or $30 on somebody basically on a shirt and a polo. We want to make sure that the people that we're recruiting to be in this role, we're not just, throwing money down the drain with clothing and so forth. So I want to make sure that we get the right folks engaged with SAC and that they know what they're getting into from the very beginning. So I think the expectations might be something that could be very helpful for the bylaws committee. So you might want to take a look at that and give me your feedback on it. I ran this through the vice president of university advancement already, so to make sure she didn't see any issues with it. My hope is that what we do at SAC, we graduate that up. So maybe the Student Alumni Association, if we create that, which would be STAT, what was STAT, but it's a larger organization that would be a membership based. You'd pay a $10 fee, which is what they've done in the past. But we could capture all of our alums or students in this case who are not physically on this campus, which might be more and more and more as this disease goes on, as people go back home, may not live on this campus, may choose to work and study online. We might have more and more alumni, future students and alumni that are not physically here on this campus. So we want to make sure that we think about our students in the most broadest capacity than not just the ones here physically. And so I want to think about how those expectations of that organization, what the expectations would be of like a recent graduate association would be. I don't really want to call them young alumni association because I could be recently graduated and I'm not all that young. So I talked with the alumni board. We had a virtual meeting at the very end of July, and that was one of our discussions of trying to find a way to capture those recent graduates that are out there in the field and working and getting a job, but still paying, huge amounts of college loans or whatever, and they might not be willing to plunk down a lot of money to be a part of an alumni association, but they have a lot of talent that I don't want to lose, and I want to capitalize on their abilities to give, but maybe not in a financial way. And so the expectations for a recent graduate might be completely different than somebody who's been out for 30 or 40 years and doesn't have any debt when it comes to their student loans, and might be in a different position where they could be better off in able to give, or different capacity to give, and have different recommendations or expectations for those board members on the full board versus the younger alumni or the recent alumni, and then also the student alumni. And the big other question I had for them is, if we're already requiring the students that are in stat to pay $10, $5 that goes into stats budget and $5 that goes into a gift budget, should the recent graduate association be at like a $25 where it's split, and then the full alumni association, if you're part of that board, that you have a $50 or $100 threshold where it goes into a scholarship fund or something like that. But it's just kind of a graduated giving. I don't see it being a very good idea for us to say to the young alums, to be a part of Student Alumni Association or STAT, what was STAT, you have to give $10, but the rest of you don't have to give anything. And I think that's wrong. So I want to keep with what the precedent was, but I also want to maybe think that precedent should also graduate up as you get older in age. That's some thoughts I had on that. But anyway, the whole point of this expectation is that we have kind of the same graduated expectations as you move along in your career, and you move along within the Alumni Association and get skills and get leadership abilities, and then get into kind of pools of committees that then we can pluck and find like some of the best alums that are super engaged and really in tune to making the woods the best that it can be, and getting those folks, keeping them engaged and cultivating them along the way. So that would be kind of the whole point of recruitment. I thought the expectations would be helpful as we do try to do some kind of recruitment of what's in it for me. Moving to the next point, meetings. At the last meeting that we had, like in March, I think, we were talking about maybe meeting more than once a month. I think it's even more critical now that we might not physically be seeing each other as much, that we have these virtual meetings or updates plus a Zoom meeting where we can all see each other and connect and have discussions. So I'm thinking that we might try to do that on like the second and the fourth Monday. Right now we're already meeting on the second Monday at 6 p.m. But to do like every 2 weeks. And I don't want to set a certain date. I don't want to say like the 15th and the 30th because that might be a Saturday or whatever. But if we have something where we have a reoccurring time that we know that we're going to have a posting of some sort of an update, and then the next meeting we have a virtual Zoom meeting where we can discuss what was said at the other in the virtual briefing like this or something. So I want you to think about that too. There's another big question for me is, do we have the actual face-to-face meeting at all, ever? Do we do it in Aldridge? Do we try to do it outside? Do we want to try, we definitely can space out in Aldridge, but if something happens where they've got quarantined issues and they need to disinfect everything, it might not be available to us. So I want to make sure that we have kind of a plan A and a plan B if we're going to be able to physically meet, and what our strategy will be for that. So send me your thoughts on these things. Take some notes as you're going through here, rewatch this, whatever you need to do, write down on your agenda sheet of different things and thoughts that you have, like what can we do to make this work? I need your help, obviously. The next thing, so fall 2020, the I Heart William Wood Spirit Week. I still want to do this, and I think that we can do it. We can probably do it just like we were planning to, and I know I had that pulled up. Oh, here, let me see if I have it. No, I didn't. I added it onto your email here, but then I filed it away. Anyway, it is pretty much the same thing that we had discussed before, starting on the 5th of October with a kickoff. Now it's not working for me. anyway, with a kickoff of, it's slow, this computer, kickoff of the event with the ribbon cutting of the Center for Equine Studies, or Equine Medicine, CEM, on Monday night. So that weekend before October, 4th, whatever that date is. Yeah, 3rd, 4th, I think that's when the Higher Learning Commission is going to be on campus doing their inspection of all of our facilities and our status as a university. And then we would kick off with the Spirit Week and then do the ribbon cutting part of that that's already happening and just incorporate it. Then I thought we would do some kind of IT lecture or some type of women in IT connection, because it's the 100th anniversary of the suffrage passage. So I thought it might be interesting to do a women-themed lecture on women in more non-traditional careers. Then we could also do a LinkedIn promotion, or we could do something on Wednesday. We had planned to do the Wednesday in the district, Woods Wednesdays. I just don't know that we want to plan for going down and patronizing businesses in a district if they're shut down or if we're in our mask order. I'm just a little concerned about that, but I don't want to say that we shouldn't do that. But on the other hand, I want to be safe about it. Thursday, I still want to do the haunted tour, and maybe the bonfire. And because of those lead COVID guidelines that they had for us, I thought it would be a good idea that we could possibly do the outside event. The bonfire would definitely be outside. We could distance at it. It's something that would be maybe fun to do that time of year. And then we could also do that tour of the haunted campus tour. We can maybe do that virtually as well. But I thought because it's going to be outside for the most part, we could go from different stations and limit the amount of people in each group. It might be something fun to do that we can take a leadership role on and continue to do the week that we had planned, with just some, amendments to it on how we distance from each other. That's assuming we're still on campus. I hope we still are. I hope we don't have a huge amount of people get sick, but just something for us to keep in mind. So that schedule is on your attachments on this email. There's also a whole entire piece of the award ceremony on Saturday. One of the things that came up, and I wish this would open up, one of the things that came up during the alumni conversation was to do a virtual award ceremony. There we go. Here we go. I'm going to scroll down. So on Saturday the 10th, I'm going to have my board meeting, virtual board meeting for the full alumni board. And then that late morning or early afternoon over the lunch hour possibly to do a virtual awards ceremony. One of the different universities that I visited with over the break of how they were incorporating some of the things they've done, but then to try to COVIDize it. They did a virtual award ceremony where they had kind of like an Oscars announcement, and then they went live to whatever home or whatever place that person who won was celebrating. And it was, of course, distanced and socially, this was their pod of people. But what the university did was they sent the award out in a box with all sorts of like swag and fun stuff to decorate and celebrate with. And then on the day of the award ceremony, they could log on and you could Zoom into their facility or their home or their back porch or wherever they were broadcasting from. And we could celebrate our winners that way. Because right now we have 2 years of awards for outstanding students we still haven't given away or awarded. And then we have last year's alumni award winners. And so I'd like to get it all done. If we did a virtual ceremony on that Saturday, it could kind of, finish out that week for us, and we could get a lot of things accomplished and some things that are different, that in a different way, but the things that we were wanting to get done anyway. The other thing I want to point out was some virtual events that the lead program said of doing virtual service projects, or one of the ideas that came from that conversation that I had with one of the universities in Idaho. They did a 5K, virtual 5K, but it was for the whole month. And they got their bib that was like essentially a graphic that was sent to them by email. They could print it out. And then they just went and did 5K whenever during that entire month at whatever time. And then by a certain date, they had sent in a selfie of them with that little bib saying, I ran the Woods 5K for October or something, the COVID 5K, whatever you want to call it, but some kind of virtual 5K where people are going and doing it wherever they're at. They can walk it, run it, jog it, whatever floats their boat. But at the end of it, just send us a selfie that you've done this, and we'll put it on our social media. And it was like this entire page of Instagram of all these different people who had done their 5K for their university virtually. It gave them an excuse to get out, and also kind of gave you an opportunity to see where they were, running, and where their scenery was when they were competing in their virtual 5K. I thought that was a good idea. It would cost us zero amount of money. It's something that we could definitely do socially to promote the university and kind of a solidarity during all of this. And it could be added into that Spirit Week of something fun to do that we're sponsoring. But again, it doesn't cost us anything, but it does something that helps build the spirit of being a Woods alumni. So that was another thought on that. All right, let's go back to the agenda. So that gets us up to fundraiser. Final SACs, November, that's coming around the corner, and I don't know what to expect at this point, because what happens if plan A, plan B, we're not on this campus when finals actually occur? And it's already jacked with anyway because of the way we're coming away from Thanksgiving and never coming back to campus, so we don't have this back and forth and back and forth. So we probably need to look at our timelines for final SACs and decide, what should those be? What are our drop dead dates on things? When do the letters need to go out? If they don't get the food or their sacks delivered to them because they're not on campus anymore, do they get that when they come back, when things settle down, maybe in the springtime, or what? I know that Campus Advisory Board, CAB, I think, is that right? Campus Activity Board. CAB does their own final SAC thing in the spring, so I don't want to be where we're competing against them or taking away from theirs because we're late because of ours is delayed because of the disease. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that's our big fundraiser. We made like $2,000 off of it last year, which is what's paying for our shirts and so forth. So think about that. Tell me what your thoughts are as far as how do we handle final SACs in November, and how do we handle things if it changes and we're not here. The second idea was to do a brick campaign, and I've pushed that up the food chain over here. There was some confusion about where I was expecting to raise money and how that money would be allocated. But I tried to explain that in a better way through an email, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. But regardless if we get any kind of kickback from it, I have a plan. But we can talk about that later. Let's just see what happens with it. But it was an idea that we could do the seniors graduating to solicit to their parents to buy a brick for the Ivy pathway, and that money would go into a scholarship fund. And if SAC were to take a leadership role on that, just to send out the letter and just target that class, trying to promote that project for the campus. So spring quickly, this is all up in the air right now. So Equestrian Weekend is scheduled for February 19th. That weekend, right now, we've had save the dates go out. I have space reserved for it, and everything's ready to go. But again, we'll see what happens with this disease. 2 is the iHeart Alumni Week. Again, there's a lot of stuff that we did last year that I'd like to try to stick with and do again this year, provided that we're actually on campus and we can hold that event. And of course, then Alumni Weekend is that weekend of April 16th through the 18th. And then we would have our award ceremony and hopefully do the passing of the gavel ceremony for our new officers and so forth. So that's all kind of who knows right now. Just a few other ideas. I put down an alumni lecture series, something that we could do throughout the year. That would be maybe a focus, like I mentioned earlier, about the suffrage anniversary, and then also a spring lecture series I called Beyond the Woods for advanced degrees or non-traditional alumni to try to get them engaged with us. and to get some specific focuses on like animal science and the MEDs and the PhDs, and try to get those folks engaged with the Alumni Association and with students on campus. So take a look at the schedule or the agenda. Let me know what you think about things. Send me your thoughts, and I'll be back in touch with you guys via email. So have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.